What is up, you guys? Juru here and welcome back to a new video. In this video, I'm going to show you 10 Linux apps every beginner should install. So as more and more people start switching to Linux and talk about the experiences and start daily driving it in general, I decided to make this video. So if you're getting into Linux and you don't know which apps you should install, especially if you're getting into it, then this video is for you. So I'm going to show you 10 apps that I think every Linux beginner should install, and without wasting your time, let's get into it. Starting at number 10, we have Upscaler. If you don't know what it is a free open source AI image upscaling application for Linux that lets you enlarge and enhance images using machine intelligence. So it's basically a Linux app that allows you to upscale not only images, but I've actually used this to upscale thumbnails and it actually works really good. So if I open it, this is what it looks like. As you can see, it's simple and very minimal, which I think is actually good. So what I'll be using to upscale is this image, just as a demonstration to show you that this app actually works really good. So as you can see, as I zoom in, we can start to notice a little bit of pixels, and that's because obviously this image that I downloaded from the internet is actually not in high quality, so to say, because this image is in a low resolution. But we can actually use Upscaler to upscale this image, so that's what I'm going to do now. So if I open files and if I select this image, it's going to take the original size of it and upscale it to this resolution. For the image scale, you can set it to however you want. You can go as high as 4 times and it will output to this resolution, but I'm going to select ×2 for now, so that you can actually see a difference between the old image that looks a little bit pixelated to the new one. For this, I'll leave this at default, so let's upscale the image. Now bear in mind this will use your graphics card, so just as a little reminder there. But as you can see, it's pretty much done and you can download this. I'm going to place it in my documents. Now if I open this image, as you can see, it looks a little bit better, much better than the previous image. Let me open the old one so you can see a difference actually. So as you can see, this right here is the old image that I downloaded from the internet. As you can see, the more I zoom in, the more it starts to look a little bit pixelated, and this is the upscaled image. As you can see, it's, I would say, much better than this one. So if you're looking for an app that lets you upscale images or that lets you upscale thumbnails, wallpapers, this is a #1 Linux app that I recommend you use. At number 8 is not a Linux app, but it is an app that is very common and it is used by a lot of content creators, and that app is Audacity. Audacity is a classic audio editing software used for recording and editing voiceovers, sound effects, and music. So if you're looking for features like noise reduction, normalize level volumes, exporting audio for video, Audacity has it for you. In fact, there are a lot of features that I did not mention, but again, this is a very powerful app. So if I open it, it is available on Linux. You can download the flatpak version or you can download the system package however you see fit, but as you can see, it is running right now and it actually works just fine on Linux. So this is an app that I use if I want to create a YouTube video that requires voiceovers. Not these kinds of videos that I make where I'm just speaking naturally without a script, but for specific videos, let's say my KDE versus GNOME video or my Linux experience videos, in fact 2 of them, or any other video where I need to do a lot of research, then I'll use Audacity to basically record a lot of voiceovers for my video, and these are the effects available for this app. And there's like a lot of stuff, or like a bunch of stuff you can do with this app. So Audacity is something that I recommend a lot of beginners use, but I'm sure most of you know Audacity. As you can see, I'm recording this video on the 1st of January, so Happy New Year to you guys. I hope you had a great Christmas, and I hope you had happy holidays. With that being said, at number 8, we have a Linux app called GSR, or GPU Screen Recorder. Basically, this is Shadowplay, which is literally equivalent to the NVIDIA Shadowplay. So if I open it, as you can see, it looks just like Shadowplay. So what this does, as you can already see, is it basically takes your GPU encoder, if you have one, and you can use that to record games. You can use it to record your desktop, and you can even do instant replay if you want to, which I think is a good thing. And if you go in settings, you can change your accent color from red to green or blue. You can even let this program run at startup, so every single time you turn on your Linux distribution, this program will start immediately, which I think is a very neat feature, by the way. This also has keyboard hotkeys and a bunch of controller hotkeys you can do. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a GPU encoder. I'm using an AMD RX 6500 XT. Fortunately, I just cannot record, but if you do have a GPU encoder, you can definitely use this Linux app, and this is a very useful app, especially if you are having troubles recording on OBS. If you have like a mid-end computer or mid-end laptop and you're struggling to record your videos on OBS through Linux for whatever reason, then this is an alternative app that I highly recommend you check it out. At number 7, we have Heroic Games Launcher. Now, this does not require any introduction, as I'm sure most of you already know what this is. This allows you to run games from Epic Games Store, games from GOG Store, and games from Prime Gaming as well. As you can see, these are all of the games that I play. Now, of course, I don't have like a library of games. I have games elsewhere. But as you can see, I have Genshin Impact from Epic Games Store. I have Need for Speed Most Wanted and Need for Speed Undercover. These are copies, or like physical copies of these games that I installed using YNAB Proton. These are Xbox 360 emulators, but with different versions. And this is an Horizon Zero from Epic Games Store. So if you want to add a game that is not from, let's say, Epic Games Store or GOG or any other store, you can simply go here. So for the title, I'm going to name it Need for Speed Most Wanted. And for the app image, you can browse for it, but it should detect it automatically, as you can see. And for the platform, I'm going to leave it at Windows because it is a Windows game, of course. And this is where you can configure your wine settings. And once you're done, you can click here where it says finish, or you can run the installer if it's an actual install of the game, and it should do everything and you should be done. Now you can go to the global settings and you can adjust pretty much whatever you want. One thing I do like to adjust from time to time is the theme. So I have Midnight Mirage, but you can also select something like Dracula or Marine depending on your theme. But yeah, that's what I like to do from time to time, especially if I change my wallpaper or something. And you can enable Discord reach presence, very important if you want people to know that you are running Heroic Games Launcher via Linux. So yeah, Heroic Games Launcher does not need introduction. I'm sure most of you know what this is. So yeah, another recommended Linux app for sure. Number 6, we have GOverlay, or MangoHud. So MangoHud gives you real-time stats like your FPS, frame times, temperatures, VRAM, CPU usage, and so on. GOverlay is the user interface that allows you to customize MangoHud. As you can see, this is what it looks like. These are layouts you can use to see what works best for you, or you can customize one. And these are the color themes you can also choose depending on your themes, or if you like, you know, a color better over the other one. If you go to visuals, in here you can customize pretty much what you can see right now on the screen. You can customize where you want to put the position of the MangoHud. You can adjust the size, the color, the orientation, the borders, and so on. Now in here, this is where things get exciting, because in here you can customize, as the name already suggests, the performance. So for the information, you can show the FPS and the frame time, which I think are very important, especially if you want to know how the game you are playing on Linux is performing. You can set an FPS limit, and you can even change the FPS color. So for example, if you're playing a game and that game drops from 60 to 30, you can change the color so that you can see, oh, I'm having maybe some performance issues, or maybe the game is lagging or stuttery. And for this feature, it basically adjusts how it should handle frames, basically, from my understanding. So for example, if you set this to early, it's going to give you the smoothest frames. But if you're someone who prefers the lowest latency, then late, which is always set to default, is the most recommended. So this is equivalent to VSync. If you're using NVIDIA or AMD control panels, this is what this method does. It's basically VSync. But I'm going to leave it at early simply because I prefer to have smoother frame rates. And for these options, as you can see, we have Vulkan and OpenGL. So this is also VSync. And you can basically read this box to see which option suits best for you. I prefer to have both of these on so that I have just less staring and less latency, basically, especially when you're playing games that are capped at 60 FPS. So yeah. And for metrics, this is something you can customize on your own. So for example, if you want VRAM to show up on MangoHud, you can do that. If you want to show your GPU, your power, and a bunch of these options. And if you have additional features you can tick, so for example, for FSR, which will only work with GameScope if you have it installed, it's going to show if FSR is enabled or not, or if HDR is enabled or not, and especially game mode. So MangoHud is a Linux app I highly recommend if you really want to customize your MangoHud and just to see how your games run on Linux. At number 5, we have ProtonPlus. ProtonPlus is another useful Linux app that allows you to install Proton builds, as well as Wine builds, DXVK builds, and VKD3D builds. So for example, if you have a Steam game and let's say it doesn't work with regular Proton or Proton Experimental for some reason or for whatever reason, then you can use this to install, for example, Proton GE, which is constantly getting updates, and you can install whatever build you want, and once you install, it's going to go directly into Steam, and when you open Steam, then you can select that Proton build that you installed. The cool thing about this Linux app is that you can also use this to install builds for Lutris, and as you can see, it has additional builds for Wine, DXVK, and VKD3D, and the same thing applies to Bordeaux as well. Now over time, I believe this has been getting updates, so this is a feature that did not exist actually. So this shows what builds you installed for, let's say, Bordeaux, for example. As you can see, I have these builds installed for Wine as well and DSVK. Or if I go to, let's say, Heroic Games Launcher, these are the Proton builds that I'm currently using, and for Steam I only installed these Proton builds. And you can also check which runners are being used by a specific game. So for example, for Steam, I'm using this GE Proton build to play Wuthering Waves, which is used by Toon Games actually. Wuthering Waves is another game on Steam, I can't tell exactly. And this one basically checks which builds are not being used by specific games basically. So if you go to games, for example, as you're going to see, these are only Steam games that I have. and you can see which compatibility layer I'm using. So for this game, I'm using the latest, not the latest, but I'm using GE Proton 10-8. For Genshin Impact, I'm using this Proton build, and for Wuthering Waves, I'm still using this Proton build, which I made a video about for a few months ago, and I'm still using this Proton build to run the game. So ProtonPlus is very, very useful to not only install runners, but you can also see, for example, on Steam, you can see which games are using what kind of Proton or Wine build, which I think is very, very useful. This is a very useful Linux app, especially for installing Proton builds, checking compatibility with Steam, for example. And yeah, I love this app. It has made, in my opinion, running games underneath Linux a lot more easier. So yeah, highly recommended. Alright, at number 4 we have CoolerControl. So if you don't know what CoolerControl is, it is a more general cooling management and monitoring tool for Linux that provides fan speed control, temperature monitoring, and automated profiles. And it has these features as well. So if I open the Linux app, this is what it looks like. Now, I do not use this Linux app as much, but I'm going to show you a very quick tour. So if I go here and start a tour, when you install it for the first time, this is what it looks like. It basically welcomes you, and this is basically your dashboard. So you can go in here to view your system sensor data and other important information, and you can add profiles. So this is going to be your default profile, so you can add a new profile if you want to, and you can start adding functions to that profile, which is something that is very useful. And in here it's basically going to show you your system information, and you can also add new items like dashboards, profiles, and so on and so forth. So if I go to the application information, it's going to show you your information like I already said, and most importantly, it also shows your logs and diagnostics. So if you see a lot of reds or yellows in here, you can download that log and see what is actually going on with your system. But for me, everything seems to be working fine, so there's nothing much in here. Now if I go to my system, this is basically, well, I'm basically monitoring my CPU load, or it is showing me how my system is doing right now. So yeah, it's showing my CPU load, my GPU load, and other useful metrics in here. Now, like I already said, I don't use this app as much, so I'm basically using the default profile, but you can basically add one, and you can add functions in here if you are obsessed with, you know, monitoring your system, fan speed controlling and stuff. So all of that nerdy stuff. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. And of course, it shows you like your GPU temperature, and of course it's showing you like your CPU temperature, your CPU frequency average, and so on and so forth. So yeah, this is something I also recommend if you are really into like speed control, or like fan speed control, temperature monitoring. If you're really deep into that stuff, this is something I recommend. At number 3 we have EasyEffects. This is something I cannot live without it. The reasons are actually quite simple. I use EasyEffects to enhance my audio experience. So for example, I use it when I'm listening to music or watching YouTube videos, but most importantly, I also use this to record YouTube videos. So for those who don't know what EasyEffects is a system-wide audio processing tool for Linux. It lets you apply real-time audio effects to microphone, desktop audio, and applications. Alright, so if I open it, this is what it looks like. So right now we are at the output section, meaning if I open Brave, for example, or if I open VLC or any audio player that plays music or video, EasyEffects is going to pick that automatically. And what it does, I simply go to the effects section and start adding filters or effects. So right now I only have 3. That's because I only need these 3 to make music sound better, or if I'm like watching YouTube videos, it just makes the audio experience much better in my opinion. So yeah, now for the input section, this is very important. So right now, as you can see, I have OBS and I'm obviously using OBS to record videos. Now this is where this Linux app comes in very handy, because right now if I open the settings for my microphone, or like if I open OBS right now, so like right now this is like the filters settings for my microphone. So the reason why I have these 3 audio filters is actually quite simple. I don't want to like this microphone to detect any noise. So for example, when I'm typing or when I smash my desk, something that I do not do obviously, I don't want my microphone to pick that. So that's why I have these 3 filters. But at the same time, while this is good, OBS does not have a feature where I can enhance my microphone to sound professional. On Windows, there are like there are software that you can use, but because I'm running Linux, like those software usually just do not work. So for that reason, I decided to use EasyEffects, and EasyEffects actually does the same thing as what the output section does. So for the input, I have these 3 effects, and I obviously tuned them to make my microphone sound a little bit more professional and stuff. And yeah, so this is what I use to record videos so that it sounds a little bit more professional, because without this I can still record but my mic won't sound professional. And because I have a fairly cheap mic, it's not just convenient for me. So that's the reason why I have this Linux app. It's really good. It's amazing, especially if you like listening to music and you want to adjust or you want to add filters to make music sound really good. And for the input section, if you record videos using OBS, or if you have like any application that can detect input, this will pick it up immediately. And yeah, so EasyEffects is another Linux application I recommend if you're really into audio. If you really like adding effects, this is something I recommend. At number 2, we have a Linux app called Mission Center. So if I open it, you'll notice immediately it looks similar compared to the Windows application called Task Manager. So if I go to performance, as you can see, it looks very similar to the Task Manager. So this is basically a Linux app that monitors in general your CPU, your memory, and most importantly all of your drives, as well as your Ethernet. Like if you have an Ethernet cable, if you have Wi-Fi, and your GPU and your APU if you have one. So if you want a Windows style task manager for Linux, I think this is a go-to Linux app. It's definitely a go-to for Linux app. Now if you go to apps, as you can see, we have other stuff running in the background. So we have all of these apps that are running in the background, and you have services as well. So again, if you have, let's say, a video game that you're running and for some reason it freezes or it doesn't respond, then you can open Mission Center and you can pretty much stop that app, as in you can forcefully stop that app and the game or the program should close. So this is something that's very useful in my opinion. Similarly, you can also use an app called Resources, which in my opinion, it looks a lot more simpler and a lot more polished in my opinion. So in here, you can see exactly what apps are currently running. So as you can see, I have all of these apps running in the background, like right now as I'm using my distribution. and then you can check what processes are running, and most importantly, you can basically check how your process is running, and you can also show the amount of logical CPU cores you have in here. So yeah, these two applications are something that I absolutely recommend if you just want to know in general what's running in the background and how Linux is using your system basically. Alright, at number 1 is a launcher that I think deserves a lot of attention. This launcher is called Faugus Launcher. I wasn't sure how I would pronounce this because some people say Faugus Launcher. I would just say Faugus Launcher because of how it's written, so I would say Faugus Launcher. So this is a lightweight gaming launcher. It is an open source community built launcher aimed at running Windows and Linux games on Linux systems using Umu Launcher plus Proton/Wine. It is designed as a simpler, modern alternative to older launchers like Lutris. So as you already don't know, Lutris has kind of stopped receiving updates. That doesn't mean that it's not gonna work. It is going to work, and you can technically run older games, or you can still run games in general, but you may run into an issue where one game just does not work for some reason, even though it always used to work on Lutris. This is an issue that I do notice from time to time, so this is something to keep in mind, and that's why Faugus Launcher was designed. So it's an alternative launcher to Lutris or to older launchers. And yeah, let's get into it and see what it does. So for example, if you want to add a game, you go here, and the game that I'm going to add is Geometry Wars Retro Evolved. This is a game that I used to play. It's probably one of my favorite games. This game used to work on Lutris, but then one day it refused to work. I used to run this game on Bottles and it just refused to work as well. So let's see if it actually works using this launcher. So let me locate the game, and there it is. And then I'm going to select the .exe. For the Proton build, I'm going to leave it at default. If you notice that this build is giving you issues for specific games, which I highly doubt, then you can select other builds in here, or you can go to the global settings in general, and then you can add a specific Proton field for a specific game. But for now, I'm going to go to Tools, and in here you can add a Proton fix as well as launch and game arguments, but I'm not going to. The only thing I'm gonna need is MangoHud and maybe game mode, and that's pretty much it. So if I click OK, the game is now added. Now in here, you can also adjust useful settings in here. Like you can use the Wayland driver. It will only work with GE Proton 10 and higher, and not older GE Proton builds. So it's a useful feature as well. You can also enable this as well. So yeah, I think that's pretty much it. I'm not gonna touch any of these settings, but that's it. So if I launch the game, then as you can see, the game actually works. So let me go to options, video, and I'm going to play this game at 1920 by 1080, and I'm going to enable anti-aliasing, and I'm not gonna keep the aspect ratio, so I'm gonna click apply, and that's it. So let's see. So as you can see, the game works just fine. Now of course I can play this game at a higher refresh rate, but because I capped MangoHud at 60 fps, which is something I showed you earlier in this video, I really can't do that right now because I'm playing. But yeah, I can play this game at higher refresh rate, but yeah, as you can see, the game actually works just fine. That being said, I believe that's pretty much it. Yeah, I haven't played this game in a while, so yeah. I'll need to get back to it so that I don't die often. These ones are very tricky. Yeah, very tricky. But yeah, that is pretty much it for this launcher. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know down in the comments, and most importantly, if you guys think I missed other Linux apps for beginners, and if you want me to make a part 2 of this, then also write down in the comments as well. With that being said, it's your boy Jury. I hope you have a fantastic day, and I am signing out.